COVID event safety. Follow the science. Hi, I'm Greta Fox, and I'm here to talk with you about event safety with regard to COVID. I have a unique perspective. Besides managing my husband's photography company, I'm also a nurse practitioner volunteering with the COVID Action Group and with End Coronavirus. We're a global coalition of experts in pandemics and related specialties with a mission to advise policymakers and to empower communities with information and practical strategies to eliminate COVID-19. For more information, please visit covidactiongroup.net and endcoronavirus.org. As things begin to open back up, we in the meetings and events industry are excited to be back. But the truth is that COVID is not yet over, no matter how much we want it to be. So we have a special responsibility to lead by keeping on the cutting edge of science-based event safety. And with the return of conferences and events and the resulting travel and tourism at a time when the Delta variant is spreading, that becomes more important now than ever. So a couple of disclaimers. Our science-based position is that CDC has made some serious errors, particularly with regard to ventilation guidance and premature easing of masks and other requirements, both of which are essential to event safety, and that the safest thing would be to continue to both wear masks and to limit live events and non-essential travel for now. This was recorded on July 10th, 2021, and this information and advice will continue to evolve. All advice found here is my own. So I'm going to go over some highlights, and there are additional resources in the downloadable PDF. You can see the link on your screen. So let's look at some myths and facts about how COVID spreads and how we can leverage science and technology to best protect ourselves, our families, and our clients and colleagues. Myth number one, COVID is over because vaccines. Fact, vaccines are an incredibly powerful tool. But vaccines alone are not enough, and they need us to help them work. COVID is still spreading. Fewer than half of adults in the US are fully vaccinated at this time, and no children will be vaccinated before school starts. CDC's claim that vaccinated people are so safe, even from the Delta variant, that they don't need masks or other precautions and that they can't spread the virus are exaggerated, and they are not following the actual science. And let's be honest, the honor system was never going to be reliable. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization advises vaccinated people to continue to wear masks because of the Delta variant. Vaccines are highly, highly effective, but they are less effective against Delta, which is at least 60% more contagious. It's already become the dominant strain here, and the numbers are already heading back up. As COVID spreads, it continues to mutate in ways which eventually will outpace vaccines if we allow this to continue. And there is even a concern in the World Health community about a phenomenon called selection pressure, which can help mutations to develop specifically between fully vaccinated people. And this is something that becomes more likely the more the virus spreads. So we need to do everything we can to help the vaccines work. Actions we can take, first of all, get fully vaccinated, but don't rely on it to fully protect you. Keep wearing a mask and keep social distancing, and pay attention to ventilation. And I'm going to be going into more detail on that with respect to events. Also, at this time, while you should confirm that this is still the case in your area, but at this time you can legally require your employees and attendees at private events to be vaccinated and to show proof of vaccination. Unless you are the person's healthcare provider, HIPAA does not apply. Myth number two, COVID is spread by droplets and you're safe if you keep 6 feet away. Facts, this is not true. COVID is airborne. This has not been explained clearly to the public, and this has to be clearly understood in order to know how to effectively protect ourselves against COVID. So here we go. We breathe out particles of different sizes. The larger ones are droplets, and as their name suggests, they do in fact drop to the ground or onto surfaces within a limited radius. Droplets are too large to inhale. If someone is close to you, any virus in the droplets can invade your body by contact with the mucous membranes of your eyes, nose, and mouth. But aerosols are inhaled into your lungs, and that is the main way that this virus infects people. Aerosols linger and swirl around in the air like smoke, and any virus in these particles, get this, can remain airborne and viable indoors for hours. So social distancing helps in the short term, since virus is more concentrated around the source, but after a while, in an underventilated room, everyone is breathing each other's air. Plexiglass barriers do not stop drifting aerosols, and they can actually make things worse by trapping air pockets. So actions. Keep this in mind as your philosophy, and everything else will follow. Don't share your air. Mask up indoors for everybody, vaccinated or not. Social distance, but don't put up side partitions. Transition activities to outdoor spaces whenever possible. And ventilate. Leave any doors and windows open to the outside that you can. And when you're selecting a venue, keep in mind that you are the customer and ask about ventilation. This gets a little sticky when the pushback is, but COVID is over. But the more people who don't buy into that myth and who do push for ventilation standards, the better it is for all of us. There is more on that in the PDF about what to look for and what questions to ask about ventilation, HEPA, ultraviolet, air conditioning, etc. And there's a link to a fantastic comprehensive FAQ website by the world's leading aerosol scientists. Myth number 3, COVID is mainly spread by contact with contaminated surfaces. Sterilize everything. Facts. This is not the main way this virus spreads. Look, I'm a nurse. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that cleanliness isn't infection control 101, because of course it is, but it doesn't do much good against COVID without airborne precautions as well. So actions we can take: keep high-touch surfaces clean, have hand sanitizer stations throughout, but keep your focus on preventing airborne transmission. Myth number 4, masks and face shields are all you need to prevent COVID. Facts. Masks. Yes, masks are another incredibly powerful tool, but they're only one tool in the toolbox because all masks leak aerosols to some degree, and face shields don't block aerosols, only droplets. Also consider that while you're more likely to breathe each other's air indoors, while COVID spreads much less readily outdoors, it can still transmit outdoors in crowds or in very close proximity to others. So what actions can we take? Masks should be worn at all times when indoors with others, as well as in outdoor crowds, vaccinated or not. And please, for the love of God, they have to fit over the mouth and nose. Masks have to be good quality and fit well. There's a resource on this in the PDF. Branded masks can be great swag, but they have to be good quality. And please avoid setting up a situation where you're tempting people to take off their own masks indoors to change into them. Myth number 5, it's fine to take off your mask indoors to eat and drink because COVID magically doesn't transmit while dining. And facts, back to this graphic, there is no safe distance for mask removal in an underventilated indoor space. COVID does not make an exception to accommodate dining. I know, how rude, but it's true. The honor system will not hold. Let's just say it. We know people lie. And let's also say that this is a very difficult food service issue to talk about and to deal with. So what actions can we take? All right, so distancing helps, but it's not enough, and ventilation is key. Consider serving in shifts to reduce occupancy indoors and avoid buffet service. Transition dining and refreshments outdoors wherever possible with open-sided tents, but not with these igloos because they're just like being indoors. And one thing people don't always think of, turn down the music so people don't have to lean in or yell in order to be heard because droplets. Okay. Myth number 6, screening will prevent infected people from attending an event. Facts, symptom screening has a greater than 50% miss rate, and this is because people are contagious before they develop symptoms, and that is when most infections are spread. Temperature screening can be affected by activity, the environment, and whether they've taken a fever reducer, and it won't pick up contagious asymptomatic cases. So if you're going to be screening on site, consult healthcare professionals to put a safety plan in place for what to do if someone screens positive that won't expose others. And while it may help, don't rely on screening alone. And finally, myth number 7, COVID testing on site will prevent infected people from attending an event. And just no, that worked out real well at last year's Rose Garden super spreader event, right? So here's the problem. Tests can screen out some people, but it takes a few days after exposure for it to show up on a test. They can have a false negative rate of up to about 1/3 overall. In fact, if you're tested the day after exposure, the false negative rate is literally 100%. And consider that if people test ahead of time and then get exposed after the test, it won't get picked up. So the idea that you give people the choice of show your vaccine card or show proof of a recent negative test is kind of full of holes. So actions, if you're going to take on the responsibility of performing on-site medical tests, realize that there's potential liability involved. You have to have a safety plan in place for where and how to do the tests and what to do if someone tests positive that will not expose others. And while it may help, don't rely on testing alone. But if you decide to test, bring professionals on site. So, to summarize, best COVID safety precautions for live events which choose to go forward at this time requires keeping in mind that COVID is airborne, that COVID remains an active threat to public health worldwide, and that by understanding the science and using multiple layers of protection, we'll keep safer together. Remember to download the PDF for more information and resources. Thank you.